Now hiring bookworms like Courtney, a crew member at the Batesville McDonald's.
McDonald's is great to college students because they actually offer tuition assistance. They've basically paid for what student loans couldn't cover.
We're hiring people like Courtney who are passionate about what they do. Our benefits include tuition assistance, flexible hours, paid time off, free employee meals, and more. At McDonald's, the crew is the special sauce. Join us. Apply now at mcdonaldshiresohio.com. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the Maroon Friday edition of the Yard. I hope you're wearing maroon today. It's a big weekend for Bulldog baseball. We're going to break that down and kind of preview the LSU Tigers and kind of look around the league and see what to expect. Kind of a wild night on Thursday night in college baseball. Matter of fact, I just finished watching Texas A&M walk it off against Kentucky. Pretty well pitched ball game there, but hey, it is what it is. And this time of year, pitching means everything, right? Hopefully we get some good pitching this weekend. But also went out to practice on Thursday. I'll have a review of kind of some things that we saw there and kind of break down some injury situation too. Nothing long term, obviously, but a lot of guys that we're going to be expecting some snaps from this year not participating fully in spring practice. And so we'll break that down a little bit and kind of let you know who's where, who's not participating, all that good stuff. Many of you know these things. If you're a subscriber to Gene's page, Paul Jones does a really good job of kind of keeping you guys abreast of the latest depth charts and that sort of stuff. And a lot of that stuff, too, this time of year, because it is spring football, that is subject to change in a major way. This time last year, Mikhail Polk and Jalen Green and the transfers came in, Randy Charlton. Those guys ran second team throughout spring, even though we know they started several games for us last year. Jameer Calvin, another one that joined the squad a little bit later. But the guys that were there in the spring did not run first team. And you and I both know Mikhail Polk was Mississippi State's most productive receiver last year. So if you see a newcomer running second team, don't read an awful lot into that just yet. Not yet. I think Mike Leach wants those guys to earn it. He's not going to just let a newcomer, show up and be given a spot. They've got to prove they're worthy of that designation. So, again, it's very informative, but at the same time, too, understand things will change a lot once we get into fall camp. We do have some other signees who will enroll there in June and could perhaps make a difference there on the depth chart. Got a pretty cool top 10 list today. Roy came up with today's idea. It's been on me a while to do this one, so we're going to knock it out today. I want to thank our friend Jason Green from Sebastopol, Mississippi, who suggested Tesla. I guess he had forgotten I had done a Tesla top 10. But I've been jamming some Tesla here as of late, and just so happens, it kind of struck my fancy. So we did the top 10 albums, even got a like on Twitter from our friends in Tesla. I love Tesla. I don't know how anybody can't love Tesla. There are a lot of bands from the 80s you look at and say, well, they were kind of good for the era. Tesla's still great, still turning out good music. Had a new single come out earlier this year. Great band. Saw those guys at the Ryman here a couple years ago. I'd never been to the Ryman before. That's the mother church of America's music. Pretty cool place. The acoustics in there are phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So when they did the acoustic set, it really resonated well within the venue. So thank you, Jason, for the suggestion. Hope you enjoyed the list. But again, it's college baseball season, so we're going to spend a lot of time talking college baseball today. Had some reaction to, a lot of people have reached out to, and today, Steve, I appreciate you being positive about the team. Well, the reality of it is when you've won 7 of 10, it's a little easier to be positive. I know we didn't have a good weekend at Arkansas, and the Razorbacks are still rolling. They're a good team. As I mentioned on the show on Monday, that's the difference between a team that's contending for a top 8 national seed and a team that's kind of scurrying to make the postseason. But it's a long season. A lot can change over the course of a season. There's injuries, there's guys that get cold, guys that get hot, there are guys that find a spot. So there's a long season left to go. But you can't just keep sitting back and dropping ball games. And I think State has picked it up here as of late. We've seen some better bullpen play. And what do you know? We're starting to stack up a few wins here and there because we're getting some quality competitiveness out of the bullpen. So with that, let's thank our good friends at Bulldog Burger Company. I love Bulldog Burger Company more than a friend, and I think you will too. Many of you are already familiar with their fine cuisine. If you're not, you need to familiarize yourself. Bulldog Burger Company, a great place to work, a great place to dine. Whether it be a night out with friends or a night out with family, you can get everything taken care of right there at Bulldog Burger Company. Whether you need an adult beverage or perhaps just a chocolate shake to go, they can line you up with every bit of that. I love going in there because I always get my money's worth and then some. Sometimes the dogs get their money's worth too, because I always bring a little bit home. The portions there are very substantial, and that's one of the things I love about it. It's not just the quality food there. It's just I always get my money's worth. Go by and check them out today. 3 great locations to serve you. University Drive here in Star Vegas, and then Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, and the brand new one, Lake Harbor Drive there in the Ridge and Flowwood area. Be sure and go check them out. You'll be glad you did. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. MEAT. All right, let's take a quick look at the LSU Tigers. For many of you young bucks, maybe you don't realize what a rivalry this has been over the years. In the 1980s, Mississippi State and LSU were the predominant teams in the Southeastern Conference. And so we wanted to beat them probably worse than we wanted to beat Ole Miss. And I don't mean this in a shady kind of way. Ole Miss just wasn't nearly as good in the 80s. This is kind of the glory days of Ole Miss baseball. They were not a real challenge. Matter of fact, looking at facility-wise, there were times in the early 80s they had chicken wire fences. They were not committed to college baseball. Mississippi State and LSU were. And, of course, there's all the backdrop of Ron Polk and Skip Bertman being longtime friends from their time down in South Florida. As Ron Polk told me when I interviewed him for Dogpile, if you haven't read Dogpile, you certainly should. I'm very proud of that book. And there is a chapter with Ron Polk, and he talks about his relationship with Skip Bertman and how he had Skip lined up. Had he gotten the head coaching job at Miami, Skip was going to be his assistant coach. That's how close they were. So there was this friendly rivalry, and at times, Ron Polk would say things on the old Rubber Chicken alumni tour event, and Skip Bertman would counter. Skip Bertman used to say that Starkville was an old Choctaw word for trailer park. And of course the LSU folks would roar and laugh and that sort of stuff. And the reality of it is that I'm very envious of LSU baseball. I said on this show last year, I wanted to be LSU. And there's a lot of bitterness in many respects between the fan bases, especially on the Mississippi State side, because we had been the program in SEC baseball, and all of a sudden Skip Bertman and those guys come along and kind of take the mantle away from us. Prior to Skip Bertman arriving at LSU, they had been to one NCAA tournament in their school's history. So they were an also-ran if there ever was one. The next thing you know, they're winning national championships and winning a bunch of them. LSU is a brand. They are a national brand. That wasn't always the case, for sure. But Tigers have been pretty good this year. Not as good as some people anticipated, or maybe not. That's not correct. Maybe the expectations for LSU were probably a little bit lofty. They were ranked, top 10 to begin the year by a lot of people. I think most people realize, hey, it's going to take Jay Johnson a couple of years to kind of get his guys, even though he had some really good transfers come in. And there was a nucleus of very good players there already. Maybe top 10 was a little bit ambitious. But the Tigers get off to a great start with a 3-game sweep of Maine. The Bears of Maine. It's difficult to even mention that name in Mississippi State circles because of that inexplicable loss on the football field we had to those guys. But LSU dominated that series 13-1, 17-8, and 21-6. Everybody said, okay, well, here come the Tigers. Well, then the next Wednesday they lose to Louisiana Tech, and the game really wasn't as competitive as I think some people expected. 11-6 for Lane Burroughs and the Bulldogs up there in Ruston. Towson State, you may be somewhat familiar with them. Those guys go in and play Southern and LSU in a 4-game series, kind of like the old Bulldog Classic there. LSU wins the first game. LSU beats Towson State 6-0, then beats Southern 9-2, beats Towson 11-1, and then Southern 15-0. That game called in just 7 innings. Then the Privateers of New Orleans. LSU gets those guys 11-3. They go down to the Shriners Hospital for Children College Classic in Houston, Texas, and they beat Oklahoma. And while Oklahoma is not expected to be a Big 12 power this year, it's still a very solid Power 5 win. They didn't lose to former number 1 Texas 6-1, and then Baylor gets them 9-6. So not a great weekend down in Houston. And, there's a huge alumni base for LSU in Houston. So, there was a lot of purple and gold there in the stands. They come back the next week. They beat McNeese State 6-3, and then they sweep a 3-game series against Bethune-Cookman, 8-7, 5-1, 15-0. Bethune-Cookman used to be a very, very solid G5 type baseball program. But you see that outside of that Shriners Classic, the competition that LSU was facing, not very good. They beat Tulane, our friends down there. They beat them 7-5 there at Alex Box. They open SEC play at home at the Box against Texas A&M. Texas A&M picked dead last in the West this year. They roll right into Baton Rouge and take 2 of 3, 6-4, 11-7. And then LSU wins a tightly contested game on Sunday, 7-6, to avoid the sweep. How detrimental would that be to your postseason resume to open up the first week of SEC play and to go 0-3? Louisiana Tech proves again it was no fluke. Louisiana Tech goes into Alex Box Stadium. They win that game 7-6. Many of you watched that game. I know I did. So that's 2 big wins for Lane Burroughs and the Bulldogs of Ruston against LSU. LSU, just when it appears they're reeling, they go into number 9 Florida, and man, how far has Florida fallen? It's like, just when you think you've got college baseball figured out, Florida returns so many offensive weapons. And then you say, well, Kevin O'Sullivan's one of the better pitching coaches in the country, and they always recruit so well there. Florida will be really good. Well, they haven't been. And really kind of the first chink in the armor was LSU going in there and taking 2 of 3 at the Florida ballpark. The Gators take game 1, 7-2, and then LSU absolutely pounds Florida pitching the next 2 days, 16-4 and 11-2. Really a nice statement for the LSU Tigers, even though they were unranked at the moment. They had dropped from 16th to unranked after the series against Texas A&M. They get back into the top 25 after taking care of Florida, and then they knock off Louisiana Monroe 15-4. Now, last weekend, Auburn rolls into Baton Rouge, and they take 2 of 3. The Friday night game, a 6-5 decision in favor of the Tigers of Auburn. LSU rallies on Saturday to win 9-2, and then Auburn wins the rubber game on Sunday 6-4. Tigers in action earlier this week with a 16-3 win over Grambling in 7 innings. It's that same Grambling team that really gave us some trouble. We won that game 2-1, thanks in large part to a Brad Cumbest home run to put the game away. And Jack Walker, a Louisiana native, had a really good showing in that ball game. Then Parker Stinnett comes in, puts together one of his better outings of the early part of the season. So now LSU returns to Duty Noble Field. Now, they have had a lot of success over the years in Starkville. We have not won a series against them at home since 2003. Now, that has been really, I guess you'd say, shouted from the rooftops this week, but it has been so long since we have earned a series victory over these guys in our own ballpark. We did win the series last year and very easily could have swept the ball game. You recall that Sunday game, Eric Sarantola is spotted with a 2-0 lead and then comes out and basically gifts those 2 runs back. And eventually Jackson Fristow comes in, and Jackson was actually tagged with the loss despite the fact that he pitched really well. State was finally able to pull even in that ball game, and then they hit a couple long balls. And next thing you know, the game kind of gets away from us a little bit. But LSU salvages that game. And then, of course, the Tigers, down the stretch were just so up and down. I think ideally you look at these Tigers and you think, okay, well, these guys are kind of the measuring stick in the SEC West, and they've really kind of lost favor here in recent years. I would venture to say that LSU arguably the 4th best team in the SEC West behind Arkansas State and Ole Miss here in recent years. And who would have thought you'd see that coming? Paul Maneri, I think in many respects, when he lost Andy Cannizaro, really lost his right-hand guy when it came to recruiting, and now you're kind of seeing that kind of come to fruition. You see the fact that you lose a premium recruiter like Andy Cannizaro if you're LSU, and you can't just recruit off reputation. So this is a team last year that had to chase, and they were one of the last teams that were included in the NCAA tournament bracket. And a lot of that, too, I think, was just kind of a parting gift to Paul Mainieri. And listen, the Tigers did well, did just enough to kind of keep themselves within striking distance, but they had every opportunity to kind of remove all doubt last year, and they didn't. And again, I think that's a lack of talent. And then they had a couple of pretty good frontline pitchers last year, and then Xavier tears the UCL, and you had some other guys kind of step up and do some big things for them, but it just wasn't the typical LSU team. It's been a while. LSU hadn't been LSU in a while. That's the thing that I think about sometimes too. It's like, it's almost like a rite of passage. You look at these things and you begin to think, okay, well, they'll be back this year. It just hadn't really worked out that way. The LSU Tigers, that's a proud program. I mean, it really is. They've won the national championship now 6 times. Of course, Skip wins 5 from 91 to 2000, one of the most dominant teams, since the early years of USC. And then Paul Mainieri, of course, wins back in 2009. 17 was probably the best chance in recent years, and they lose to Florida. Florida's long national championship. And let's take a break from LSU just a second here. I've wanted to address this on the show for some time, and I always think about it kind of in hindsight. I sat there in Georgia and at Foley Field, and of course we lose the series there. But I looked out there and I saw that national championship, sign out there at Georgia. And I said to myself, I don't want to be Georgia. I don't. You can only begin to imagine, the excitement they had. They won a national championship back in 1990, and you think, hey, listen, we're off and running. It's 32 years later. And I would venture to say that Georgia historically has been one of the biggest underachievers in Southeastern Conference baseball. They never really capitalized on that national championship. I don't want to be Georgia. I want to be LSU. That's who I want to be. Oh, we win one, and then there's another one that comes in quick succession. Now, it doesn't feel like this is the year for that to happen for Mississippi State. But I certainly don't want to be Georgia. And I don't want to be Florida either, even if Florida's won one more recently. It's the thing, you look at Florida and think, how in the world do they only have one national championship? Well, they do. They played for it a couple times, but that's it, And so I don't want that for our program. Now that we finally achieved, the ultimate goal of winning the national championship, I don't want to be satisfied with that. I don't think anybody associated with Mississippi State baseball feels that they're satisfied. I think everybody is still, grinding and pushing to get the next one. But I don't want to be, 30 years from now, I probably won't even be here. But, looking out there at Duty Noble Field and seeing that 2021 national championship sign out there and thinking, yeah, that was great back then, but we never really did anything about it. We never really capitalized on it. We have to capitalize on that. Now that we have removed the punchline of Mississippi State can never win the big one, it's time to go get another one. And again, it may not be this year. I don't feel that it is. But I don't want to be here 30 years from now having to tell my grandkids about, 1 year we kind of got to put it all together. It all worked out really well for us. And we finally won a national championship, and that's our claim to fame. I don't want to have that. I want my kids and grandkids, people like that, to be able to celebrate more national championships. And I know that your administration is committed to doing that. But I don't want to be Georgia. I want to be LSU. All right, let's take a quick look now at, we talked about these recent years with LSU. We talk about getting back to LSU, and that's what Scott Woodard does. He goes out and signs, he goes and gets the big coach. He gets the big splash hire. And while many of you may be unfamiliar with Jay Johnson, that is a huge hire. That's a guy that's very well respected in college baseball circles. Of course, they came in here and beat us in a super regional here back in 2016 and went on to play for a national championship, and they lose to Coastal Carolina. It should have been us. It should have been. But Jay is a guy that everybody likes. I mean, you don't find people in college baseball circles that have negative things to say about Jay Johnson. And so to go get him, to hire him away from Arizona, that's a team, too, that's got, a lot of tradition. Arizona's a team, too. You could make an argument, probably a top 10 team historically in college baseball. One of the best programs in the country. And then Scott Woodard at LSU goes and hires their coach and brings him to the Southeastern Conference. And listen, LSU will get back to being LSU, but it has been a while since LSU has been LSU. Those are the things I think about. We kind of endured the Skip Burpin years. But, let's go back here a little bit and just take a quick look here. 2009, they won the national championship. And then the very next year, they go 14-16 in the SEC. Then they go 13-17 in the SEC. Then 19-11, 23-7. 13 was a good year for them, for sure. They win the SEC West. They win the SEC tournament. Finish up with a final ranking of 4. 2014, 17-11-1 in the SEC. 46 wins overall. And again, they win the SEC tournament and have a final ranking of 22nd in the country. 2015, great year for them. SEC champions with a final ranking of 5. 2016, 19-11 in the league, final ranking of 12. 2017, they win the West, co-champions of the SEC, win the SEC tournament, and then finish ranked 2nd in the country. That was a great LSU team to win 52-20. 2018, then this is like after 17, LSU really hasn't done much. Really hadn't done much at all. 2018, they put together a 500 year in the conference. They don't even win 40 games overall, 39-27. They don't make the tournament. 2019, 40-26, 17-13 in the league, final ranking of 14. In 2020, 12-5. Of course, we don't play SEC games. And then last year, Paul Mainieri's final season in Baton Rouge, they go 38-25, 13-17 in the league. It's pretty rare to see a team that's 13-17 make it, but they did. RPI was decent, but it's pretty rare to see a team 13-17 make an NCAA regional. And you know as well as I do, he probably got the benefit of the doubt because Paul Mainieri and his dad have done so much for the game of college baseball. So, again, it's been a few years since LSU has really been the dominant team. Those are the things that I think about. It's like, of course, we didn't have a tournament in 20, but, just kind of, backing up here, you're looking at, what they did, in 17, they lose 2-0 against Florida. And then in 18, they get beat in the regional by Oregon State. 19, they're eliminated by Florida State in the Super Regional. That's 11's last year, man. That's Coach Mike Martin going down there, and they got hot late. Ended up going to Omaha with us, and I consider it such an honor to be there in his final press conference. And but it was big. LSU was expected to have a good team that year, and Florida State goes in there and wins the Super. And then last year, of course, the LSU ends up winning the regional at Eugene, which was, a bit of a surprise. I think a lot of people expect them to go out there and get routed. They didn't. And then they end up losing to Tennessee in the Super Regional in Knoxville. So they make it to the Supers, but nobody really gave them a real chance to beat Tennessee. I was pulling for LSU because Tennessee scared me a little bit. I thought, hey, if we run into LSU in the tournament, I feel a little bit better about that. But again, they just haven't been what they have been, which is one of the reasons, Mainieri makes a change. There was all this discussion last year, even before the season began, that LSU would make a change. And I think a lot of it kind of centered around, Mainieri's had some neck issues and that sort of stuff, some medical issues. And I understand at times he'd have to walk back in the tunnel and just kind of stretch out a little bit and grimace and kind of get things going. And so, while Paul Mainieri wasn't exactly the most popular guy in Starkville, Mississippi, it's irresponsible and probably disingenuous not to give him credit for the things that he's done for the college game. And I know that there's a lot of people, too, that you don't think a lot of Coach because of the fact that some of the things he said about Starkville. Was there some bitterness about not getting the job? He pursued the job at Mississippi State when he was at Notre Dame and didn't get the job. Is there something to that? Probably. Probably so. He and John Cohen had the war of words a few times. I'll never forget Kendall Graveman buzzing the tower with Mason Katz. Mason Katz come in here and killed us on Friday and Saturday. Buzzed the dugout after a home run, talked a bunch of trash, and then next thing you know, Kendall Graveman throws about head high, probably 6-7 inches behind him, took him completely out of the game. State wins the game on Sunday. I asked Kendall Graveman a couple summers ago, had a chance to sit down and interview Kendall, who is a fantastic person. Really looked excited for him to have a good year for the White Sox. He was good last year for the Astros. Of course, came over in that late trade. But he goes, I don't remember all that stuff, Steve. That's what Kendall says, but you and I both know there was a message behind every bit of that. All right, let's take a quick look at the LSU Tiger off. Hey, what's up, Boneyard family? Do you remember game night? Remember how much fun that was? You stay up late with your friends, your family, play some late night poker, some things like that. Maybe you can't do that anymore. Maybe because you guys are somewhat separated. Maybe your college friends or your military buddies, or perhaps the ladies from girls' night have moved out of state. How about reconnecting with our friends from Poker Chill? You download the Poker Chill app. It's very easy to do. It's got built-in video chat, so it's not just some virtual game. You're able to kind of communicate and see your friends. So when you take the pot, you can see the shock on their face. You can host private poker games, no Zoom or computer necessary. You can video chat right on your phone or tablet. A perfect way to hang out remotely with your friends or family. It's as fun and real as live poker, but it's from your phone, so you can do it from the convenience of your own home. Easy, just 3 taps to set this whole thing up. Perfect for both beginners and advanced players. Download now for iPhone and iPad. Get started by downloading the Poker Chill app, and here's the deal. We're going to help you get 5 hours free, completely free, by using promo code Boneyard when you download the Poker Chill app. Check it out today. Bulldog fans, are you like me? Are there just not enough hours in the day? I'm getting older, but I really don't want to slow down. But, that's the reality of life. It's a shame we got to get old. But I'm getting there, for sure. And I'm busier than I've ever been. I got book signings to do. I got shows to record. I got ball games to cover. There are more demands on my time than ever. And I'll be honest with you, my energy needed to keep up sometimes wanes. That's why I take M-Drive Start. M-Drive Start is a premium protein powder packed with 7 clinically tested ingredients that support energy, strength, and drive, and 6 premium protein sources for optimal recovery and digestion. Every year it becomes more obvious we're getting older. That doesn't necessarily mean we want to reduce our quality of life. So prioritize the need to take care of your own health. M-Drive is a supplement for every lifestyle and every stage of life. Makes it easy for guys like me and you to take care of our health. You get M-Drive Start at mdriveformen.com. That's mdriveformen.com. And use coupon code Boneyard for 10% off your first order of M-Drive. You get free shipping and a 60-day money-back guarantee. Again, that's M-Drive Start at mdriveformen.com. Promo code Boneyard. Fans, Jacob Berry leading the team with a 371 average and got some pop to go along with it too. He's not just a punch and Judy hitter. 43 hits, which leads the team. Also has 9 home runs, which is second on the team, and 30 RBIs. That's kind of right there in the middle of the pack among the leaders. But a guy doing a good job for him. Doesn't strike out a whole lot, just 12 Ks. Doesn't walk a whole lot either, just 13 walks. But a guy that's putting the ball in play with an on-base percentage of .457. Cade Doughty, we know Cade pretty well. Cade's a guy last year that got hot, hit some home runs for those guys. He's hitting .365. Also got some long ball in his game too. 7 dingers for him, 32 ribbies, 14 doubles, which leads a team. So you got to do a good job keeping that guy off out of the gaps and off base. Also a guy that has done a pretty good job running the bases for them. 3 of 4 on the year in stolen base attempts. Not that LSU steals a lot, but they're kind of opportunistic. Dylan Cruz, a lot of people expect him to be among the first players drafted. When it was a surprise that he even came out of college. He's hitting .342. 34 runs scored for him, which is a team high. And then 39 hits, 3 doubles, 4 triples, which leads the team, and then 8 home runs. So he's right there, among the leaders in every offensive statistical category. He's also been hit by the pitch 7 times. That's one thing, too. You look at this LSU offense, that number really jumps out as a team. They have been hit by the pitch 72 times. You say, Steve, 72? Yes, 72 times. And we're a team, too, that sometimes will throw inside and hit pitchers. You got a couple different guys on this team that got double-digit hit by pitches. Pretty interesting, right? Yeah, I thought so, too. All right, 24 strikeouts for Dylan Cruz, which is a little bit high compared to the rest of his peers there at LSU. Second highest number of strikeouts on the team. But, a guy that's an exceptional athlete is going to play pro ball someday. Trey Morgan's a guy that really turned heads last year. He is an extremely athletic first baseman. A guy, too, that at times will kind of drift too far away from the bag and kind of make things a little more difficult on the coverage, kind of tossing to the pitcher. Or sometimes, too, he kind of gets over there, doesn't always play his role, but this is a guy, too, that's got a very bright future ahead of him. He was a guy, too, last year that kind of had a hole in his swing, too. He really struggled with fastballs up. He has done a better job of that this year, hitting .331 this year. Has started all 29 games for the Tigers, and 30 runs scored, 39 hits, 9 doubles, a triple, and a couple of home runs. Power numbers still not quite there, but trust me, when this guy gets in the minors, he's going to take off. Really like the makeup of his game, and again, he's so athletic at first base. He can save you some errors, even though LSU has made a ton of them. 14 Ks, but 11 hit by pitches. 13 walks, 11 hit by pitches. You kind of do the math there. Braden Jobert, a great Louisiana baseball name, hitting .320. Another guy, too, that does a pretty good job. Once he gets on base, he finds a way to get around. 29 runs scored, 32 hits, 7 doubles, and leads the team with 10 home runs. And it's going to be interesting, too, to see how it works this weekend. Even though the Duty Noble is more of an offensive park since the renovation, it's not at all what LSU is. Now, LSU also 38 ribbies from Braden Jobert, too. So this is a guy, too, that can hurt you. You need to make sure if he's on base or if he comes to the plate that there's not guys in front of him. You can't walk guys and then get to him because he will make you pay for it. And he's a guy that likes to swing. A little swing and miss in his game. But this is a guy, too, that he can absolutely hurt you. Jordan Thompson hitting .317. You say, well, Steve, how many of these guys hitting above 300? Well, the regular 600. How about that? Let that sink in for a second. This is an offensive lineup. There's not a lot of holes in this lineup. You can't just assume outs with these guys. You got to go out there and make pitches and let the defense play behind you. Jordan Thompson, of course, another guy, too, that maybe not as heralded as some of the guys on this team. 10 doubles for him and a couple of dingers, too. 17 RBIs, but, he is a guy that's going to get on base for you. 18 walks, which is tied for the team high, too. Gavin Dugas, a guy, it seems like he's been there forever. 3 dingers for him this year and 20 ribbies, but he's hitting .299. Just one, if he gets one more base hit against Grambling, all of a sudden you've got 7 guys in this lineup hitting .300 or better. So we're going to have to go out there and pitch it well. We're going to have to make plays. We can't give them things. There's another guy, too, that Hayden Stravinsky is another guy, too, who's been a little bit banged up this year. Started 8 games. He's hitting .313. And so, basically, you look at this lineup, you have a ton of guys out here that can swing it. Giovanni DiGiacomo is another guy, too. It's been there forever and a day. He hit the big home run at Hoover to tie that game late. It looked like we were about to put that thing away. Josh Stevenson is a guy that's been around for a while, too. Basically, now we're serving kind of as a defensive reserve. And Alex Malazzo is the guy that's the backup catcher there. So, they've got this is a veteran team. It's a really veteran team. These are a lot of guys, too, that have been around. Cade Beloso is a guy that's been there forever. He's not doing much at all. Not exactly sure what his situation is, but it seems like he has been there forever. Absolutely forever. Now, we have mentioned, too, about errors, and this is a team that is really struggling defensively. 45 errors, which is a phenomenal number of errors for an SEC team. Now, we have booted it around a little bit ourselves, too. But as a team, these guys have really struggled. Jordan Thompson, 10 errors for him. 10. Goodness, how does that guy stay in the lineup, right? Collier Cranford is a guy that hadn't played a whole lot. They played him somewhat short on Tuesday. And he was a guy, too, played some at second for him last year and booted the ball around against us. So, again, not a great defensive team. And that's, I think it's so important, too, to put the ball in play. Put the ball in play. Make them play defense. Cade Doty, 9 errors on the season for him. They even moved him to shortstop. He's regular third baseman. They moved him over to shortstop. And a lot of errors there, too, and maybe that's a part of the deal, too. But, this is a team that will give you extra outs, and that's where Mississippi State has got to make them pay. And that's the thing that State has done a really good job of this year. We hadn't always been able to string together the 3-hit inning. But you know what? You start walking people and you start committing errors, and more times than not, we'll make you pay. We may not get the big hit, but we do find a way to get a run in. And I think that's going to be an important thing for Mississippi State is when they give you extra outs, you and the baseball gods have to make them pay. All right, let's look at LSU pitching. Interesting group, to say the least. Looking at these records here, there's a lot of guys out here that have done a good job for LSU. But Blake Money is a guy that again has been around there for a while. 7 appearances, 7 starts, 38 innings pitched, which leads the team. Giving up less than a hit per inning though, 33 out of 38. He is a guy too that he'll walk you a little bit less than 3-to-1 ratio and strike out to walk. 13 walks on the year. Also has kind of shown the propensity to give up the long ball. 6 home runs against him this year. Opponents hitting 229 against him. Mikhail Hilyard, we know him. This is a guy too that's again been around for a little while, and it's actually a guy that's got a pretty bright future. A lot of people really like him. They think he projects well, and former reliever, I guess, and now he's got 6 starts under his belt, 29 innings pitched, giving up right at a hit per inning at 28 and 29. He's allowed 16 runs on the year, and not walking a lot of people, and that's big for him. 28 Ks, nearly 6-to-1 on the strikeout to walk ratio. So this is a guy that's got swing and miss stuff, not going to put you on, but he's hittable. 243 batting average against, which is among the highest allowed. He also has hit 5 hitters too. So control at times is a little bit of an issue, but again, he kind of dials it back in. Doesn't make more than 2 or 3 pitches that are bad in each at bat. Ty Floyd is a guy too with 5 starts under his belt with a 3.38 ERA, 24 innings pitched. He's been a little stingier. Opponents are hitting just 171 against him, 14 hits, 10 earned runs, 15 walks, 30 Ks. So 2-to-1 there, that's probably a winning combination for us. And also a guy too that's willing to give up the long ball, 6 doubles this year and then 4 home runs. And again, he's not working as deep in the ball games as maybe some other guys are, but a guy that has certainly done some good things for them. 7 appearances, on the year with 5 starts. Sam Dudden is a guy too that's been around for a little bit too. Got 1 loss charged against him. He has worked as a reliever for them and a part-time starter. We may see him. Trent Vetmeyer is a guy that we have seen multiple times. Saw him last year. Had some success against him. He's got appeared in 10 games, all in relief, and has 1 win in relief. But as a guy too that he doesn't give you a whole lot. He's just not a guy that gives up a lot of hits. He does have some swing and miss. 23 Ks against just 7 walks. Devin Fontenot's another guy that's been around. There were some people last year wanting to run him off at LSU. But, he's a guy too. He wasn't as reliable as they wanted him to be, but he got some things together later in the year. So there's some dudes out here that we're going to see. And I don't know that they have, a designated closer. I know last year they wanted Fontenot to be that guy. I think Eric Reiselman is a guy that has kind of emerged as kind of a late inning guy for them, pitching 1 inning stints, 13 appearances this year, averaging just over an inning per appearance, allowed 12 hits, 3 earned runs, 30 Ks against 7 walks. And that's one thing you want when you bring in a reliever is guys that can pound the strike zone. So Devin Fontenot kind of up and down. Matter of fact, opponents are hitting 254 against him, but Reiselman, 179. So this is a solid LSU team. They were 6-4 in their last 10, and of course they win the ball game on Tuesday. So they're not going to be intimidated. That said, they're a team that has not done exceptionally well in SEC play. And I think that's one of those things to kind of look at and be cognizant of as well, is that they have gotten fat against some really bad competition. Not so much against SEC pitching. And I'm trying to pull up those numbers right now, just so I think it's important if they would provide those numbers for us, I'll share that information with you. But SEC play has just kind of been a little bit up and down for those guys. But looking here real quickly, just kind of give you a little bit of an overview. Look at the game-by-game stuff. That first game against Auburn, they get after them pretty good. 10 hits in the first game, 7 in the second, 9 in the third. The second game, they just couldn't get people around. Just scored the 2 runs there. And, of course, they lose the ball game, 13 Ks. And that's the thing. When I look at, here as of late, they're just, excuse me, as a pitching numbers. Goodness gracious. All right, look at the hitting numbers here. So 18 hits and 16 runs against Grambling. But in SEC play, against Auburn. They score 5 runs, 9 runs, 4 runs, 9 hits, 12 and 11. So they're putting some balls in play. It's not always being very efficient with that. Now Florida was a much different deal. In the Saturday-Sunday game, the 2 games they won, it's double-digit hits, just 2 hits on Friday night, and that's really more about Florida starting pitching than it is the LSU offense. When you got to get those guys off balance and change speeds against them. They didn't have a lot of big numbers against A&M. Of course, they salvaged the one game with 11 hits, but outside of that, 6, 7 hits a ball game. So they're going to get some guys on base. They're going to have some traffic on the base pass. We're just going to have to play good defense and not give them outs and give them runs, because ultimately that's what gets you beat. So we'll see how things go. I'll be honest with you. I think we're going to win the series. And I know it's going to be nip and tuck. It's going to boil down to a rubber game. And people say, oh, man, Steve, if we could sweep. It'd be incredible. I just don't feel it. I just don't have enough confidence in Saturday pitching. I think Preston Johnson has been good. He is due, for another good outing. I think Preston's a guy, too, that we know will go out there and compete. But, against a trajectory offense like LSU, you better be careful hanging that breaking ball, because they will absolutely make you pay. But, yeah, can we win this series? Yes, we can. Do I expect it? Yes, I do. Do I expect a sweep? Absolutely not. I don't. Now, Parker Stinnett, of course, has been kind of feast or famine. There are some games he goes out there and he's absolutely outstanding. In other games, you wonder how he made the roster. And that's a lot of that, too, is you got a guy that's a middle reliever that's now working into a starting role. And so, again, when he's on, he's really good. And when he's bad, he's really bad. And one thing that we've learned is that when things go south with him, they go south in a hurry. And there are times you struggle to even get guys out in the bullpen, like we saw last weekend against Arkansas. I mean, it all fell apart in the second inning. And you can't explain it. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to it. When a guy loses it, he just simply loses it. So we don't need him to lose it this weekend. We need him to go out there and make LSU work the count, but also, too, put the ball in play and let the defense work behind him. As a matter of fact, let's call Parker Stinnett our Prime Shrimp player of focus this week as we kind of get ready for that. Prime Shrimp has done a great job there in Louisiana. We don't want LSU to enjoy any shrimp this weekend. We really don't. We want to be the ones enjoying shrimp. And you can find that at primeshrimp.com, a great New Orleans-based company that's been peeling shrimp since the 1940s. You say, Steve, I'd love to have shrimp. It's just so much trouble. And you know what? I understand that. That's why I'm introducing you to Prime Shrimp. You're going to get these great ready-to-use pouches delivered right to your home. Well packaged, well cooled. You don't have to worry about the mailman dropping them off in the morning and then be ruined by the time you get home in the evening. They can sit outside all day. I would venture to say if the temperature falls just right, they can sit out there all night. I don't know that I'd want to do that, but they certainly could. It's very well packaged. 4 great flavors now. You've got the Simply Seasoned. You've got the French Quarter Alfredo. You got the Louisiana Shrimp Bowl. And now you've got the garlic butter. I mean, it's great. Be sure and check them all out. And the best thing about it is, too, you don't have to peel them. You don't have to devein them. You don't have to pull the tails off. You just boil a pot of water and drop that pouch in there. Open the pouch up, drop the contents in there. 10 minutes later, boom, ready to serve shrimp. You can't beat it, man. Be sure and use promo code Boneyard when you go to Prime Shrimp to save a little money off your order. You'll be glad you did. I cannot recommend it highly enough. It's a risk-free purchase. If you don't love it, you get your money back. But again, Parker Stinnett. I think Parker Stinnett's performance is probably the difference in winning the series and sweeping the series. I think it really is that simple. And you hate to put that kind of pressure on a guy, but when you begin to think about how do we have enough relievers to piece together 3 wins? And I don't believe we do. Now, can you piece it together on Friday? Let's say Preston Johnson gives you 6. And then you go out there and maybe you get an inning or 2 from Brooks Auger. Well, then if you get 3, it may burn him for the weekend. Maybe you use Fristow for 1. Well, then you get into Saturday and you start thinking, okay, I've got Brandon Smith. I can use him. I've got Mikey Tepper. I can use him. Well, then I get into Sunday. I feel like Cade Smith can get me 6, but how do I get the final 3? I just don't know that I've got guys. Then Drew Talley and Cole Cheatham have to come into play here. And so, I think State's got to get good starting pitching and work deeper into the ball games. You can't have 100 pitch counts in the 5th inning. We're just not going to have enough relievers to cover 20, a dozen innings out of the bullpen. And those are the things that concern me. If Parker Stinnett goes out there and leaves in a tie ball game in the 6th inning, who do I have on the back end that's going to be able to get us there? This has been a concern the entire year, but the reality of it is I just don't know if we've got a bullpen that can secure 3 wins for us. I don't. And that's one of the main reasons that I'm expecting to be a 2 out of 3 game. I do think the Bulldogs will be better at home. I think State had a kind of a turning point in many respects Sunday to Arkansas, kind of get that monkey off their back. They swung the bats really well on Tuesday. I don't look for the ball to carry much on Friday and Saturday. That might actually help State pitching because LSU was kind of built on the long ball. But, we have kind of come relying on the home run heroes of late ourselves. And so I don't think they're going to be high-scoring games, but we'll see. We go out there and walk 14 people, it certainly will be. But I think Parker Stinnett is a huge factor this weekend, and we need him to go out there and have a good start. All right, time to get into today's top 10 list, brought to you by closewithblair.com. Blair Chandler is my friend, and I like having powerful friends. I like having friends with know-how. I know you do too. I know you get excited about that. It's like, hey, I know a guy, or I know a gal, or a lady, a woman, that is an expert in certain fields of expertise. Blair is a mortgage professional, 21 years in the industry, works for Fairway Mortgage, recently named #1 in customer satisfaction when it came to mortgage origination. So you got the best guy from the best company. Top 1% close ratio in the country. How about that? And maybe in the past you've been places and you've been turned down before. Maybe it's because you didn't have a good originator. Maybe you didn't have somebody willing to go out there and fight for you when it comes to underwriting. Or maybe somebody that kind of knows the tricks of the trade says, hey, here's how we package this loan. Here's what we do to get this loan approved. You don't stay in an industry for 20 plus years by accident. You got to be successful. And that's who Blair Chandler is. Go to closewithblair.com. That's CLOSE with Blair, BLAIR.com. And here's the deal, too. I'm going to give you his personal phone number. And when you call or text him or email him or tweet him or whatever you do, carrier pigeons, you let him know. You tie a little note on that little pigeon's leg, and you say, hey, I heard about you on the Boneyard, and Blair's going to pay for your appraisal. How about that? That's about a $500 value. Blair's number is 601-500-2344. Again, that's 601-500-2344. You don't have to sit on hold all day. That's his personal cell number. You're not having to go through a receptionist or get transferred around to 100 different places. You're going right to the guy. Again, that's Blair Chandler with Fairway Mortgage. Closewithblair.com. All right, top 10 list. Roy's suggestion today. And he's been on me for a while, and every so often Roy gets a little passive-aggressive with me. He does, hey, maybe, just maybe, you'll do one of my ideas this week. And he texts me, but I imagine like that's how he says it, like in his head when he texts me. And if you don't know Roy, you probably, if you do, you know I'm right. That's probably what Roy does. Steve never uses my ideas. Well, I'm using yours today, Roy. Roy says, let's do a top 10 list of all the singers or all the artists that use one name. One name. And of course, this is a very interesting list. And this is kind of a more modern phenomenon, too. When I was a kid, there wasn't a lot of people out there that, you knew who Elvis was, but he was Elvis Presley. And so, well, yeah, he went by Elvis. Well, yeah, but he was Elvis Presley. There are a lot of people out there that have stage names, of course, that, you kind of know it all. It's just like, Beyonce Knowles. I don't have her on the list. And some of you are kind of cringing right now just because you call her Beyonce or Queen Bee or whatever. Ultra talented, but I don't see her as like a one-name artist. And maybe I'm wrong, but I didn't include her. And it's nothing against her or anything. I love JC, but I love Destiny's Child too. So here we go, and it's going to be, again, it's kind of an eclectic group. It's not like all rock or all R&B or all whatever, but there are just some names out there that are kind of synonymous with hit music that are known, for single-word nomenclature. So we're going to start with one, and many of you, this is a song many of you may not have heard because you may have known her from the Ordinary Love Days. We're talking Sade, spelled S-A-D-E. I don't know how we get Sade out of that, but we do. And she is fabulous. I love her sound. I love her whole vibe. And when she made her big comeback here several years ago, it seems like forever ago now, she had a great song called Soldier of Love. I love the percussion on this. And I love the fact that she sings so soulfully over the top of it. So there you go. Sade's Soldier of Love, number 10 on your list. Number 9, because I'm fun, and you are too, we're going with Pink. Pink, I have no idea what her real name is. I think. Like if I thought about if I was like on Jeopardy or something, I think maybe it's Alicia, I think. But I don't know the full name. But Pink, and the song for me that kind of pulled me in with her was, Get This Party Started. I still listen to that sometimes too when I'm riding around because I'm ready to get the party started. Number 9, Pink, Get This Party Started. Number 8, and they call her Riri. They call her all sorts of things, and she is an incredible music and fashion icon. It's Rihanna. Rihanna, yeah. I'm getting my Stevie Nicks thing hung up in my head there. But she's had a lot of huge hits. The one for me where I kind of felt like that she was going to be a star I like Palm the Replay, but I thought Rude Boy was a huge hit. And it seemed like when it was out on Top 40 Radio, you couldn't go anywhere without hearing it. And so I'm going with that one, with Rihanna, Rude Boy. I think it's great. I think it's a great track. I think her delivery on the track is great. Number 7, a guy that we don't talk about very often, and he's known as Usher, but I do remember when he was on Star Search, he was Usher Raymond, but I wanted to get him on a list. And I think Usher is absolutely phenomenal, and also a really good dancer. He was a guy, too, when R&B kind of had this shift, he brought kind of performance dance kind of back to the genre in many respects. He wasn't too cool to dance. Usher's a very talented guy. Still don't understand what happened with him in Chile. I like the scoop. I like the 411. I don't know how you ruin that, Usher. It's probably one of the biggest mistakes in life. But along those lines, we're going to go with You Make Me Wanna from Usher, which the guitar on that thing, I think, really sets it apart. It's very well. The composition of the song is very, very good. But it's Usher's You Make Me Wanna as number 7. Number 6, going back to the early to mid-'90s, and this guy is a musical savant, plays 7 instruments, I believe is correct. And there was all this controversy a few years ago when he won the Grammy. It's like you've got these music factories out there where you have like 12 to 13 songwriters and then 17 musicians, and then you've got Beck kind of just sitting in his basement just churning out critically acclaimed music left and right. But I went back to the beginning because, Save All Your Food Stamps, We're Burning Down a Trailer Park. It's Loser from Beck. When that thing first came out, me and my friend Jim Winter, we thought that was the most amazing song. And the video was even better because Beck never took himself too seriously. And it's like, yeah, I'm a loser, so why don't you kill me? It's almost like you could tell that he meant it. He was kind of like Napoleon Dynamite before any of that stuff happened. It was just amazing when Beck hit the scene. He had Where It's At. I got 2 turntables and a microphone. It's like everything he did was kind of like poking fun at himself. Get crazy with the cheese whiz. I mean, Beck was incredible and still is. Still is. I mean, guy's still making amazing music. Just doesn't get the radio play he used to. But again, I have no idea what his name is. I just know him as Beck. Number 5, and I started not to include this gentleman because he's part of a band. But what is Bono's full name? I don't know. Maybe you guys know. And I had somebody recently in one of these music threads that I jump into and I share things about how bad Green Day and Everclear and Blink-182 and those bands are. Somebody said, U2 is the most overrated band in the history of the world. I completely disagree with that. I think U2 is very, very talented. Now, I think they have some filler in some of those albums. Joshua Tree wasn't one of them. And I don't think War was one of them either. There's some great ones for sure. So we're going to go with Bono, but I'm not going to go with a traditional hit from them. This is like right around the time that I was right before I got clean and sober. My favorite song from U2, and it's really the one that kind of made me feel like, U2 is a little different. They're not just this like alt-rock, fringe top 40 type band. Because some of that stuff on Joshua Tree I thought was a little bit contrived. I appreciate it more today because I was really, I was more in the Motley Crue and Skid Row and Rat. So maybe I wasn't quite ready to hear U2. But the song Mysterious Ways, I've always loved that song. I love the fact that it's kind of mystical in a way. And I don't mean to borrow that off the Mysterious Ways thing. I just think the sound they use with the guitar, it sounds like it's almost, the amp is almost underwater. They really do a good job kind of bending the sound and almost making it more of a danceable song. So Mysterious Ways, number 5 on your list. Bono from U2. Number 4, another guy that made his name as part of a band and then had a very successful solo career is Sting. And he is number 4 on the list. And this is a guy, too, that's wrote a ton of hits. Could have gone with one of his band songs. I elected to go with one of his solo songs, and that's Fortress Around Your Heart. I believe that is off The Dream of the Blue Turtles, which is still a wild title for an album. I know it's part of the lyrical content on one of the songs there. I would like to know the story behind that, so if you know it, please send it to me. What is the deal? The Dream of the Blue Turtles. Is it a recurring dream that happens with Sting? It's like when he was doing all this, I mean, was Sting high when he wrote all this stuff, and he hallucinated these blue turtles, and they got into the recesses of his mind, and he couldn't escape them? Is it a nightmare? Is it a pleasant dream? Is it a premonition? What is it? I need to know. I might stay up tonight and research that. But Fortress Around Your Heart, I think, is a really, really good song. Number 3. Arguably the biggest name in pop music from a women's standpoint. I mean, Madonna was the queen of pop, when I was coming up. And I remember when, Like a Virgin and all that stuff came out. I mean, it was so controversial, and it's like people just saw Virgin in the title and they freaked out. They thought, oh my gosh, why is she singing about virginity? And it had absolutely nothing to do with that. It's just like, and it's kind of like today, and let me afford me a little latitude here, if you will. It's like today, how many people do you know that rush to Facebook and they read the title of an article and they don't read the article, they just comment based on the title, and it drives you insane? Well, we used to have that too in music. Back we didn't have social media back then, so we didn't have a written record of people being complete and utter idiots. But we had people that would, oh my gosh, what are they singing about? And they would never go listen to the song. They would never go read the liner notes, never get to know the lyrics. They would just automatically make these declarations about music, which is how the PMRC kind of rose to power. And if you don't know what the PMRC is, that was the Parents Music Resource Center that was founded by Tipper Gore, the wife of the founder of the internet, Al Gore. Maybe you're familiar with that story. But that became a big deal, and they ended up putting the explicit lyrics albums, sticker on albums, which guaranteed they would go platinum. But it's like all of a sudden these parents were like, well, wait a minute, I never knew that album said this. And they would take some things that were so completely out of context, and they would frame them up in a way that really kind of removed any type of artistic license. And they would just say, hey, this song is about this, like Suicide Solution, by Ozzy. It was about Bon Scott. It was about Bon Scott drinking himself to death, about, suicide is done with liquor. That's what it was about. But rather than get some context, they just would go run with it. And so Madonna got, in the middle of all that stuff too. It wasn't just the heavy metal bands or the rap artists. And there were a bunch of that crap too. And a lot of that was kind of lined with racism. You had all these people that didn't understand, the direction of music and the stories that these people were telling, sharing their pain and sharing their struggle. And they just figured, hey, well, they're just making this stuff up and it's negative. And, they didn't understand that these people were kind of crying out. This is how they dealt with the pain in their lives. And so, but because of the fact that they looked and acted differently than the rest of us, they were like, well, they've got to be negative. And I'll be honest with you, as a young kid growing up in South Mississippi, I thought NWA and Public Enemy were incredible. The more that the PMRC and people like them railed against them, the more appealing it got to be to me. I thought, you know what? The reason these people are having this overreaction is because they're threatened. And if they're threatened, then these guys must be right about something. That's how the thing worked in my mind. I know a lot of people, even to this day, say, oh, I don't like all that gangster rap stuff. And you know what? That's cool. That's fine. I loved it. I still listen to it from time to time. And I'll be honest with you, growing up in South Mississippi, we were sheltered from a lot of that stuff. We had no clue those things were going on around in our country. None. And so all of a sudden MTV kind of opened our eyes to that. It's like all of a sudden you find out, hey, people live and act differently than us. And there are a lot of people dealing with a lot of heavier stuff than we are. I mean, when I was a kid, it was about, hey, do you get a Zebco rod and reel or do you get something else? Am I going to get a closed face or an open face, fishing pole, whatever? Do you buy the 20 gauge or the 12 gauge? I mean, that's what we thought about. Life was simple for us. It wasn't for a lot of our peers around the country. And so there was all of a sudden this window to the world that never existed before that was brought to our living rooms by MTV. And there were a lot of people that simply couldn't handle that. They couldn't handle it. And that's what made us love MTV that much more. Because these people that we did not identify with were telling us these people that we did, hey, those people are unclean. Those people are harmful. Those people are wrong. It was like this whole thing, like they thought they were just going to be the Pied Piper and they were going to lead us all down the road to death or something. It wasn't the case. But it was an important time of music. It really was. But Madonna, again, got wrapped up in some of that stuff, too. And she was part of what they called the Filthy 15. But I didn't go with one of her more risque songs. I went with, I think, one of the best dance songs in her catalog. Causing a Commotion is probably the best dance song. But I love Into the Groove. Get Into the Groove. Great, great danceable track. So there you go. You didn't expect to get that history of the PMRC today, did you? All right, number 2. Arguably the best guitar player with one name. It's Slash. Now, I could have gone Guns N' Roses here. I didn't. And I know many of you missed the intro we used to have for the Boneyard. So we're going to bring it back today. We're going back to Slash's Snake Pit. And we're going Beggars and Hangers On. Even though I like the live version with Miles Kennedy better, you can find it on YouTube. I wish it was available on Spotify and Apple Music. It's not. But Beggars and Hangers On, I love that track. I think it's very well written. I think Miles Kennedy sings it better than the original singer did. But I love that blues intro, and it used to be the intro for this show for many, many years until they made us stop using it. But we're going to pay our tribute to it today. Beggars and Hangers On by Slash, number 2. And number 1, this should be obvious, one of the greatest singer, songwriter, musicians of all time. No matter the country of origin, no matter your taste in music, this is a guy that just crossed all lines for genres. We're talking Prince. Love Prince. An underrated guitarist too, man. It's like you see some of these shows out there on YouTube and stuff, and you just see Prince just absolutely melting people's faces. I mean, it's like if he wasn't a pop music superstar, he could have been like the lead guitar player in Rat or something. I mean, Prince was incredible. An incredible songwriter, and I love the fact, too, that Prince at times, when he would get all this criticism and stuff about, sexuality and that sort of stuff, the way he dressed, he was such a gentleman about it all. Like, he never, ever, ever reacted negatively to that stuff. He was just like, I'm going to be me. I'm comfortable being me, and I don't need your approval to be me. I have such respect for that. I absolutely do. I think you got to be comfortable in your own skin. And it's always kind of, I don't want to say troubled me, but it's always kind of puzzled me. It's like, why so many people are like, why are you so concerned about how somebody else chooses to look and dress? Why is that your business? Why do you care? And I think Prince really challenged a lot of people with that and really kind of brokered in kind of a new age of individuality. I think a lot of people, especially young people, began to say, you know what, hey, I'm going to start doing that too. I'm going to grow my hair a little bit longer. I'm going to grow my bangs out. I'm going to start wearing these wild colors. And I think that he was responsible for a lot of that. Prince, an absolute legend. We talk about, the term GOAT is thrown around so much, it's almost become, you almost wince when you hear it now because all of a sudden somebody has a new hit single or somebody gets a bunt single or something and they're the GOAT. Prince is one of the greatest of all time. You talk about GOATs, yeah, he's one of them, for sure. Prince is an incredible performer. So we're going to go with Little Red Corvette. I know you're probably thinking I was going with Purple Rain or When Doves Cry or Let's Go Crazy. I could talk about Prince songs for a long time. That guy's got a very extensive catalog and never released a bad album. Never. And whenever he got bored with the people he was working with, he would fire everybody and put a new band together. Remember, he had the Prince, then he had the Prince and the Revolution, then Prince and the New Power Generation, then he went to the Symbols. So he just kept changing. The guy's incredible. He was never, ever complacent as an artist, and we lost him far too soon. So number 1 on your list, Prince, Little Red Corvette. That's a top 10 list for today. If you have ideas for the top 10 list, reach out and let me know. Or better yet, contact Roy at Dogmatic67 on Twitter. If you can't find him, find me, and I'll relay it. And we look forward to doing another top 10 albums list on Monday. Got a lot of good suggestions for that, too. A lot of people have come up. You guys are pretty creative, man. I mean, honestly, there's some times I'll think, hey, that's a good idea. Why didn't I think of that? And I'll run it by Roy, and Roy's like, oh, yeah, that's great. So we enjoy doing this, and I hope you guys continue to enjoy it. I have a lot of people that stop and talk to me on campus, especially some of you young guys, and say, hey, Steve, I love a top 10 list. I've learned a lot. And then I go home, and I'm listening to these music, and my dad's like, hey, when did you start listening to these guys? So I'm glad that we can bring families together. That's what we do on the show, is we bring families together. All right, let's get ready to go talk some spring practice football. This segment of the show brought to you by your friends at Campus Bookmart. I love Campus Bookmart. You will too. Standing man, Miss Kathy Brown, the lovely, talented Susie. Matter of fact, I heard from Kathy Brown today. Already thinking ahead. She's like, hey, we need you to go to Mistletoe Marketplace with us in Jackson again this year, and we want you to be there every day. And let me tell you this. I love going up there. I get to see so many of you. More to the point, I get to see your wives, because they're out there buying gifts and that sort of stuff, and everybody's hanging out and having a good time. It is a great festive environment. But it is a long day on your feet. And for a guy that wears Chuck Taylors, not a lot of support in there. And so by the time we get to day number 3, I'm looking for somewhere to sit. They want me to be there all 4 days, and maybe we can be. If Mississippi State's not playing a football game on Saturday, I will be. But I will be back at Mistletoe Marketplace with Kathy Brown. Love her to death. He's like a family member to me. And listen, if you can't make it, and you don't have to wait till Mistletoe Marketplace to order cool stuff. You can do that now. Go by and see them today, or visit them on the World Wide Web at campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays. That is BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. And that gets you free shipping on all orders over $50. Any order less than $50, absolutely incomplete. And just to think, you can thank Tipper Gore's husband for all of this. It's incredible. Thanks, Al. All right, spring football practice. I was out there today. I've been out there a couple times. And that's one thing, too, about having the army of people that we do over at genespage.com. And Dave Murray's in town now for a couple weeks for us. And good to have Dave back. Dave got in Thursday night, so Dave will be covering practice with us on Saturday. But, when I'm covering baseball, Paul can go cover football, go to football practice. So we always have a presence at football practice. It's always great. We have multiple people there because you can kind of get – and there's things that happen, that you don't see. We don't just stand by each other and just sit there and shoot the breeze. We're walking around kind of seeing what's going on. And sometimes you've got, practice sessions going on 3 different fields. Special teams will be up front, and you've got offense on one side and defense on the other, and everybody gets together. But there are some missing in action. And many of you know that, but I don't know that any group has been harder hit than the defensive line. I mean, pretty much your first team defensive line is in the pit or wearing a no-contact jersey. And we got some guys that had some off-season cleanup type procedures. They're going to be good to go come fall. You'd like to see them get the reps, but within their absence, you've got some younger guys that are getting an opportunity to get more practice reps and get more up to speed. We're really building depth. I mean, you know what Jaden Crumity can do, right? I mean, you know what Nathan Pickering can do. You just want to make sure those guys are in shape when we get ready to go play football in September. But now the guys behind them, they're able to kind of get in there and kind of mix it up a little bit and kind of get some coaching and get more reps in practice than they ordinarily would have. And that's a good thing. That is a good thing. It's not a good thing that you got so many guys out. But it matters. If we're going to get hurt, let's do it now. So, Big Baby, Jaden Crumity in yellow. Nathan Pickering in yellow. Cam Young is out. He's in the bull pit over there. Jordan Davis, he's out. Towards ACL last year in fall camp, so they're not going to do anything with him in the spring. But I tell you this, that guy looks great. He looks like what you'd expect an SEC defensive end to look like. Man, I expect a big year from him. I really do. Jet Johnson got a broke hand. I think our good friend Steph shared that out of Tupelo. I think he broke that news. But he was come to practice, and he's out there in the pit, and his hand's all bandaged up. I mean, you can see that he is not participating. And Steph kind of got a little more information. He's out for the rest of the spring, and that's fine, as long as he's ready to go for the fall. And that's football. Football's a physical game. People get beat up. Happens. But, outside of that, I think we're pretty good in the secondary. I don't remember seeing any names, over there on the side. You got a couple of offensive linemen over there, and we'll get to that in a second. But defensively, this group looks to be pretty athletic. When you start running down the names here, I mean, the dudes up front, all right, you know what you got at Cam. He's a future NFL guy. A big baby, probably an NFL guy. Pickering, of course, has that same potential, even though he hadn't fully realized it yet. He had some big flashes last year. The big play against Texas A&M really kind of stands out. Then you get Jordan Davis back, and nobody's even talking about Tyrus Wheat. Nobody's talking about Tyrus Wheat. And that's a guy right there that is making Albert Reese better every single practice. There are not going to be a lot of edge rushers on that side, on the weak side, that Albert Reese is going to face that are going to be the same quality of Tyrus Wheat. And Albert's a guy, too, that's got to learn to bend a little bit better. Talking to Mason Miller post-practice, he's like, hey, he's kind of high-hipped, and so it's more of an effort for him. If he gets stood straight up, they're going to take him right back to the quarterback. And so we've got to make sure that he's, kind of getting the fundamentals down. But that's, that's what practice is for. And every time Ty Wheat beats him, he's going to learn. He's going to learn from it. You get better. Find a way to block that guy. You're going to be able to match up with everybody in the SEC. I mean, this is a defensive line unit, when healthy, that can be really, really strong. And I think they're going to take a step forward this year. I think Jeff Phelps did a good job with these guys. Linebackers, we feel good about that group too. Matt Brock spoke with us today. Matt Brock, of course, has given up special teams and is coaching the entire linebackers. Last year, he had special teams and then the sandbackers. And so now he has a little more control over that personnel group. And says, hey, kind of settling in, and he's been really impressed with the younger guys. Nick Mitchell was the guy that he mentioned specifically, is a guy that really comes out and plays hard. And I think, I feel good about our group. We can ill afford an injury out there, but I think you feel good about what you have. It's just a matter now of kind of building some depth behind him, and that's where perhaps Tamar Rochridge comes in. And he mentioned Deshaun Page having a great camp. And that's a guy, too, we've been kind of waiting to see him explode. That's a guy that's a former JUCO guy, got a couple years left to play, but the light really hadn't come on for him yet. And so it's good to see him running around and making plays now, because he is a big physical presence. In the secondary, talking to Darcel McBath, he believes he's got more depth in his group that he's had since he's been here at Mississippi State. And this is a guy, too, that you had Martin Emerson and Emmanuel Forbes, and I think by and large last year we felt like we had three corners we can play. I think it's probably jumped to 5 or 6 this year. Asias Forbes is a guy that they just can't seem to run that guy off. It's like people think, well, he's not going to play. Then all of a sudden he becomes a career special teams guy. Then he's a starter. Then he's a two-deeper. And now he's back being a two-deeper. I think the guy's just happy to be here and get his education and play. But it's like every time I turn around, somebody said, hey, Ferg did this and Ferg did that. I don't expect him to start. I think DeCambrion Richardson and Forbes are the starters right now. Marcus Banks is starting to pick it up a little bit. He's going to play a lot. You feel good about that. DeCarlos Nicholson is coming on. So, again, you lose Martin Emerson, who is the guy that we're hearing now has a second-round grade on him. You lose him, but yet all of a sudden you've got some depth to go out there and compete. And DCam's having a good camp. DCam is having a really good camp, and we need him to be. We need him to be a much better player and live up to his potential, and I think that you're getting that. I think bringing in guys like Banks and DeCarlos kind of sends a signal to him, hey, it's time to go. So pretty excited about that group. Safety, Tripp Wilson's kind of over there now, too. That will be interesting. I think Tripp's a guy that can be, a depth guy and certainly a special teams guy, but, the guy's such a good athlete, you got to find a way to get him on the field. And so, we'll see what happens with that safety group. But I do feel like we're in a much better position now than maybe we were a year ago. We had a lot of guys kind of rounding back into form last year off injuries. And so we'll see. I still think we need another safety out of the portal. Hopefully we can find a good one, at least a guy to come in there and run the 2 deep. But we mentioned the offensive line, too. There are some days out there that the only starter you have back is LaQuinton Sharp, and a guy we had to go get an extra year for, right? Now, I'm going to say some things, too, about these tackle positions, and I mean them as nicely as I can, okay? No matter how good Percy Lewis is going to be this year, he's not going to be as good as Charles Cross was last year. Now, he may be next year, but to expect him to kind of come in there and pick up where Charles left off, that's just unfair to Percy Lewis. The guy's going to do a good job, but it's probably going to take him a few games to kind of get going. The guy's got to get used to the speed of the game at this level. But just about all your interior guys, with the exception of Cam Jones, and Cam's a swing guy, right? But Cam's a guy that's, can play left guard, can play right tackle for you. But the other side over there, Albert Reese is kind of taking over there. And I think that, talking to Mason Miller, now Stephen Lasoy is kind of sliding inside. And he said today he's going to end up taking somebody's job. That's encouraging to hear, too. Which makes you wonder, too, do we need to go get another offensive tackle? If we thought Lasoya might be a tackle, now that we have him here, we've identified him as a guard, do we need to go back into the portal and get a tackle? Maybe we do. What's going to be available at this late date? Hopefully some guys go in the portal of quality. We can go get those guys. But, there's not anything to really worry about. With LaQuinton Sharp and Cam Jones, and really for that matter, Albert Reese. Albert's still got to, we got to fine-tune some things. But the reality of it is we've got some dudes. It's just a matter of kind of getting them together as a cohesive unit. And then, of course, you get Cole Smith and you get Dollar Bill back 100% in the fall. And then Cannon Boone's a guy, too, that, had a torn ACL, so he's kind of working back for that, too. So there's three guys there on your interior, on the two deep, that are missing right now. But it's going to be okay. Receivers look great. Tulu, I guess, was in no contact today. And that's okay, too. I'm not worried about Tulu Griffin. I think Rufus made some nice plays today. Justin Robinson looks phenomenal. Jordan Mosley looks phenomenal. I like these new additions at wide receiver. I think this is, we talked last year about, hey, this might be the most talented receiver group we've had in a long time. You know what? Until this year, this is a very talented group of receivers. And I thought Will Rogers and Sawyer Robertson were outstanding today. Absolutely outstanding. Sawyer Robertson's a dude, man. I'm telling you. You might as well get ready. That guy's going to be the face of this program here very, very soon. Won't be this year. But the future of our program is going to rest on the very talented and capable arm of Sawyer Robertson. Guy's outstanding. A couple backs today. I thought Hargrove did a couple things today. DJ and Woody, you got proven commodities there. But, again, it's spring practice, but it's good to see everybody out there kind of getting together and kind of, running around, making some things happen. So we'll have more of that. I hope to be able to get out there Saturday for the scrimmage. I don't know that I'm going to be able to do that. I've got a book signing at the Lodge. That kind of precludes me from going, but you never know what's going to happen. But I'm at the Lodge 10 to 12:30, and they've got it up on the marquee. So as you come into town, maybe you forget, you'll see the Lodge sign, and it says, hey, Steve Robertson book signing, dog pile, 10 to 12:30. Let's go up there and sell every book they got. So I'll be there for 2.5 hours, and I'll head over to Dudden Noble Field, and we're going to go win a baseball game. But be sure and come by. And then Monday, I'm with the Newton County Alumni Association, the Mississippi State Alumni Association with the Newton County chapter. It's the Mexican grill there. I'm not going to embarrass myself and try to pronounce that again. I took 3 years of Spanish, but I can't do it. I can't roll the R's. But you guys are well aware of it, and if you need information, reach out. We'll get it to you. But I'm excited about that. But again, we'll have some more. We'll have David's going to be there, and Paul's going to be there for sure. And so we'll have some reports over at Gene's page, and I'll do some talking to some of your coaches, maybe after the scrimmage, and see if we can find out, kind of who did what and that sort of stuff. Mike Leach will be speaking with the media following the scrimmage. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by our friends at Portico. We're going to do a baseball segment in honor of our friend Brooks Bryan. Brooks is a buddy, man. I love Brooks to death. The guy's got a lot going on for sure. And every time I see that guy, he's got a smile on his face. But very driven guy that's involved in a lot of things for the betterment of his own life, but also, too, of our great state. And one of those things he's involved in is Portico, the great residential community, just 1.1 miles away from the Mississippi State campus. And if you move to Starkville, you're moving here. You're not moving here to be close to the movie theater. You're moving here to be close to Mississippi State. And so you can be close enough for convenience, but far enough away for some privacy there at Portico. Very easy to find. You turn off of 82 on a 12. The very first right is Pat Station Road. Boom, there you know. You cross over Old West Point Road and a little stop sign there, and there's Portico. Next time you're in town, just go check it out. You got nothing to lose. I mean, it's not like you're going to turn in the neighborhood and all of a sudden Brooks and a real estate agent come out there and hijack your car. Right through there and see for yourself. It's great construction. You got a lot of Bulldogs involved in this project because they care about Starkville. And so if it's your primary residence you're looking for, or perhaps having a place in Starkville that ultimately becomes your retirement home is your goal, Portico has a option for you. You can start with a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house and go up to a 4-bedroom, 4-bath house and really everything in between. And right now, because Phase 1's completely sold out, they're working on Phase 2, you can get some say in how that goes. You can pick out your lot, pick out your house plans. Everybody deserves to do that at least once. For more details, call my friend and your friend, Brooks Bryan, 601-416-8075. Again, that's 601-416-8075. Trust me, Brooks will take care of you. Absolutely will. If I was moving to Starkville, I'd move to Portico. Make Portico your next move. All right, let's look around the Southeastern Conference. In the last few minutes we have together, let's take a look at the SEC. And, again, a very interesting opening night of SEC play. I had a doubleheader on the SEC network. And I missed much of that Arkansas game and got here late. And at that point, Arkansas was clearly in control there. Arkansas wins the game 8-1. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, Connor Nolan, he pitched so well against us last week. And I think a lot of people said, well, Steve, part of that is our own ineptitude. Listen, Florida has a ton back offensively, and Connor Nolan carved them up too. Connor Nolan, outstanding. 7 innings pitch, allowed 1 hit, 7 Ks, and 1 walk. So he gives them 2 base runners. 2 and 7 innings pitch. That's tough to win a ball game like that. I mean, honestly, you begin to think about, okay, so we're gonna spend 21 outs and get 2 base runners. That's not a good trade for us. It's a great trade for Arkansas. This guy's becoming a dude. He really is. And then Zebulon Vermillion comes on and gets gets a save. He gives up a run late there too. Don't really expect that. He only faced 9 hitters, but got into a little bit of trouble there. Gave up a couple of hits and had a walk there. But the game was already kind of pushed away there. But really kind of the decisive inning for Arkansas. It's pretty crazy. It is a 3-0 ball game when Nolan leaves, and then Arkansas puts up 5 in the top of the 9th. Just kind of like, if you were thinking that you're going to have some late inning drama, we're going to go ahead and remove that possibility from you. So, again, impressive win for Arkansas. And again, anytime you win on the road in the SEC, it's a big deal. I don't care where you do it. It's a big deal. These are great coaches and great players. And Florida's underachieving. 3-7 now in the SEC. Oh, my gosh. How did I pick them to win it? Feels kind of silly now. A&M, of course, walks off Kentucky. Mentioned that earlier in the show. I was waiting for that to get over. So I probably regret staying up watching that game and recording the show. I got a big day Friday. I got a lot going on. Got some personal stuff to attend to, and then we got to get together and go win an intercollegiate baseball game. But the Kentucky A&M game goes 11 innings. Kentucky goes up a 2-0 there, and then A&M gets 1 in the 4th and 1 in the 6th to tie it. And that's how it remained if they got to the 11th. And then the big walk-off to end the ball game there. Pretty crazy how it all worked out there. And Nick Mingione, those guys are pitching it really well. I don't know that I expected that. Claunch with the walk-off dinger on a 2-2 count to right center. And everybody at Bluebell Park that was not wearing blue went home happy. So the Fighting Ross Bjorks, it's a big win for them. They're now 18-11 overall. So let's look at the rest of the weekend. We kind of know how things have started. And I love this Thursday night thing. I'm not so crazy about us doing it. I know we do it a couple times. But the one thing I do like about when we play on Thursday is it gives me Sunday to watch college baseball. You know what I'm saying? Because when you're covering games, it's the only game you get to watch. That's one of the reasons I'm so against all these AP polls and things like that. But that's another story for another day. But I love being able to watch everybody else play on Thursday. I mean, I'm a college baseball nerd. I mean, I love it. I really do. And I watch it if it's on, I'm watching. And I may be working while I'm watching or on my phone while I'm watching, but I've got the game on. So Arkansas, of course, at Florida. I told Oliver, the SID at Arkansas baseball, well, we got Florida last week. I said, man, you guys will kill those guys. You guys are going to kill Florida. They were a little more, they weren't as confident as I was. And Arkansas is going to take this series, and they may sweep it. When you see, a couple of guys get together the way they did, and Connor Nolan pitch as well as he did. And listen, we know what Arkansas has from a starting pitching standpoint. We just saw it last weekend, and all three of their starters were outstanding. Smith and Wiggins both were great against us. We made some hay against the Arkansas bullpen on Sunday. This is an Arkansas bullpen that's a little bit shaky at times, but their frontline pitching is outstanding and much better than most of us anticipated, including myself. Arkansas wins the series and likely sweeps. And then what do you do if you're Scott Strickland? I mean, honestly, think about this. You had all this stuff last year. There's all this rumors about off the field issues with Sully, and then the flirtations with other schools, kind of behind the scenes, and then you go out here and you're having this tank of a season. I don't know. I don't know. Does Scooter need to make a change? I mean, do you fire him and go get Tony Vitello? I mean, I don't think Tennessee can win a bidding war with Florida. And I think Tony Vitello at Florida would be curtains for Vanderbilt in the East. Just something to watch. I just don't think Tennessee's going to pony up the money to keep Tony Vitello if Florida comes calling. And if you're Scott Strickland and you want to get out, this is probably the year to go get Vitello. All right, Missouri is at Tennessee. Speaking of Tony Vitello. Missouri, listen, Beazer and those guys are playing better. They don't have a shot this weekend. I mean, and you say that. You never know when a pitcher's going to hit a hot streak, but Tennessee is so good up and down that order. Even if they have to come and get you in the 8th and 9th, they're going to get you. I really like the makeup of this Tennessee team. And people forget, they lost a ton. People act like, oh, well, Steve, they have so many guys back. No, they don't. That's what makes it so much more remarkable. I think they lost 4 position players last year and the DH. Yeah, you've had some guys get better, and then they did a great job evaluating. Tony Vitello, I'm telling you, he is the lead alpha dog in college baseball right now. That guy's he's an incredible recruiting personality for sure. Georgia at South Carolina. I mean, do you have any confidence that South Carolina's going to beat anybody? Here's what I'll say though: it's so tough to win on the road, and in Georgia has been a little up and down at times. I think Georgia will drop a game at South Carolina, but I think Georgia wins the series. Now, you may have seen Jackson Cannon, Georgia's Friday night guy, is out this weekend. That changes the dynamic of the weekend. Guy's a first rounder. We saw him firsthand. That guy can really, really pitch. Well, now all of a sudden you got to throw your number 3 guy on Sunday, and I think that gives South Carolina a chance to win the series. And listen, Georgia, Scott Strickland's one of the best pitching coaches in America, but outside of Cannon, he doesn't have like a surefire SEC starter. They just kind of string it together. And again, that's kind of the magic of the Scott Strickland experience there at Georgia. This guy knows how to mix and match and manage a pitching staff. But I think they'll win Friday, Saturday. I think they'll lose Sunday to South Carolina. Vanderbilt is at Auburn. This may be the most interesting series in the conference not played in Starkville. I really like this matchup. I like Auburn. I told you guys from the beginning of the year I did not buy the Vandy love. And you could say, yeah, well, Steve, you told us you love Florida. And that's true. I did say that. I think this whole Vanderbilt thing was just based off reputation. And I think the Florida thing in many respects, too, when you look at everything they had coming back, it just kind of made sense on paper. But something's wrong at Florida. All of a sudden, they've got bad culture at Florida. How does that happen? Vanderbilt has good culture. I just don't think Vanderbilt has players like they've had, which is amazing considering that you can put everybody on 100% scholarship. Are we seeing the end of the Vandy dynasty? I don't think so. But I think this is, if you're going to get them, this is a year to get them. I think Auburn wins the series, probably 2-1. But I won't be surprised if Vanderbilt does, because I think Auburn, it's kind of such a herky-jerky experience with them. I mean, you saw that crazy series with Ole Miss where it's like every game was like a church league softball game. The winner won by double digits. It's just like, it's ridiculous. Or the winner scored double digits. So I never know what we're going to get from Auburn. Vanderbilt is going to be a solid team, and of course they've had to move some guys around. Dominic Keegan, is catching. We kind of knew that was going to happen, but this Vanderbilt team is reeling, and I think we're going to find out what they're made of here in these next couple of weekends. They have been embarrassed this year. And this is a team, too, that if they lose this weekend series, they may be unranked for the first time in a long, long time. We talked about Kentucky and A&M. It's at A&M. And so my hope is that Nick and those guys can go in there and get a game. It's tough to win on the road in the SEC. It really is. And you lose a tough one like this tonight. I mean, and so A&M goes to bed tonight feeling great about life, and Kentucky's like, we had our chances and we just couldn't come through. That's kind of how it was last weekend against Ole Miss. They played them really tough Friday and Sunday, not so much on the other game. Or excuse me, I guess Kentucky won a Saturday game. But my point being is I think Kentucky's got good enough pitching to go get one this weekend. And I think A&M is so Jekyll and Hyde, you never know. I mean, would any of us look up and be surprised on Sunday to find out that Kentucky won the last two games of this series? No, we wouldn't, and I would be thrilled to see that happen. I'm really pulling for Nick Mingione, but also, too, I want a little shakeup in the West there. We're ahead of Kentucky. We're tied with A&M. So anytime that, a team like Kentucky can take a couple of wins away from an SEC West school, that's good for us. So really pulling not just for Nick, but kind of against A&M. Alabama's at Ole Miss. I like this Alabama team. I just don't think it has many stars. I do think they're a very gritty, blue-collar type team. And this Ole Miss team is very, very interesting. This offense of theirs, and, I kind of fell for it too. Kind of like I did with Florida. It's like, hey, you look at all these arms, these hitters that are back. And I told you guys they weren't going to have pitching. Well, what's incredible is, lately the pitching has been, better than advertised, and the offense is not even close to what people expected. Let me just go back and let's talk about this. If I can find the numbers here, let me pull up the Ole Miss schedule. So one of my friends, J-Dog, give him a shout out on the show. He had shared a statistic with me that I passed on to you, and I want to give him proper credit for that. I told you guys the other day they had not done well in their last 10. He makes a good point, too, that since Ole Miss went to number one, which was stupid, that they have really struggled. And they don't have it on their schedule when they went to number one, but they were. And so I don't know when the train actually started here, but, you win 2 out of 3 against Auburn. Then you win the game against Memphis, and then you get swept by Tennessee. You beat North Alabama to death, and you win 2 out of 3 against Kentucky. But he says that they were 6-7 since they went to number one. And that may be true. They're 19-9 overall, and they got off that great winning streak, and then they lose a game at UCF. Maybe that's the curse of John Rice Plumlee, but then they kind of rebound from that, and then they drop a game to Oral Roberts, and it's like, and we could just start there. I mean, you lose to Oral Roberts, you lose to Southeastern Louisiana, then you lose to Auburn. I mean, so then you take the other two. I mean, you're 2-3 right there. You win against Memphis, that makes you 3-3. Then you drop 3 to Tennessee, makes you 3-6. You beat Bama, beat Kentucky. Does that make you 5-6? And then you lose one? Yeah. So that's right. They're 6-7. I mean, so good for you, J-Dog, for getting that right. But this is an Ole Miss team that they can come out there and score 21 game and then score 1 the next. But I think Ole Miss takes the series. I'd love to see Alabama win it, but I think the fact that it's at Ole Miss in Oxford, and of course if it doesn't rain up there, they'll be able a chance to play baseball. But Alabama, I just don't think that there's enough firepower in this offense to win a slugfest with Ole Miss. I mean, give Ole Miss some credit. I mean, when they get the bats going, they're difficult to defeat. They really are. You can say that for everybody, but they have some length in the lineup. And then there's some talk, too, about them getting some guys back, so we'll see. But, yeah, it's going to be an interesting weekend. It always is, man. It always is. And we just got to keep playing. We just got to take care of us. And then there's so much parity in the league. Everybody will take care of each other. We just got to take care of Mississippi State. And going out here getting 2 out of 3 from an LSU team that's been very up and down, that's the next step in the journey for us. And as I mentioned, I'll be signing books Saturday from 10 to 12:30 at the Lodge. If you're looking for books, maybe you can't make it to town, go to dogpilethebook.com. They got a couple cases left of Dogpile. And then there's more on the way. Should be here, late next month. So, and we'll be able to farm you out to stores too. We'll kind of piece this thing together. So if you're looking for those books, You can still get them. A couple cases left. So it's well less than 100. A lot of you taking advantage of that. And I've shared with you guys, too, they're depleting the inventory of villains and alpha dogs. So if you don't have those books, you don't need to put that off. Because unlike Dogpile, there's not anything planned to print for those 2 books the rest of this year. And we still got some Flim Flam, too. I had a lot of people that reach out and say, Steve, is Flim Flam still available? Well, yeah, absolutely it is. As is Blooms of Oleander, and you can find that at Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, all those good things like that. But all the sports books are all available at dogpilethebook.com. And I sign them all. If you want them personalized, I can do that too. That will delay shipment by about a week. But once you order, there's a book set aside for you. So you're not going to run out if you ask for personalization. But if you don't care about that, you can just get a signed copy and they'll put it in the mail for you pretty much next day. And if you're looking for shirts, the other day I had somebody ask me, just so happened I didn't mention it on the Wednesday show, and somebody said, hey, where do you get your shirts? Yeah, it's StarkVillains.com, and everybody needs a Stark Villain t-shirt and hoodie. Everybody does. You'll be glad you did. And summertime's coming, too. It's going to be warm. You need to look into that. Maybe get you some cool shirts. I don't specialize in anything other than cool stuff when I can help it. I don't like to be associated with things that I don't think are cool. I think the Stark Villain design is absolutely outstanding. I like it so much I put it on a book. It's perfect. StarkVillains.com, and that is actually a registered trademark with the United States Patent Office. How about that? You didn't know that, did you? It's true. I own the trademark to Stark Villain. All right, so be sure and check all that stuff out. Thanks so much for your support. And as always, if you're not a subscriber to Gene's Page, you certainly should be. Come by and check us out at genespage.com, the Mississippi State affiliate for 247 Sports. All right, we'll see you guys on Monday. Hopefully we're talking about a big weekend for Mississippi State baseball. Hopefully, and because I want to beat LSU horribly, I do, because I'm a kid of the '80s, right? I don't like to see the image of Ben McDonald flexing on us. I like to be able to know that we went and got us a win. Yeah, I love Ben to death, but when we get ready to play those guys, I always want to win. I always want to win. And I know you guys do as well, and hopefully we can. Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we'll make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.
Now hiring bookworms like Courtney, a crew member at the Batesville McDonald's.
McDonald's is great to college students because they actually offer tuition assistance. They've basically paid for what student loans couldn't cover.
We're hiring people like Courtney who are passionate about what they do. Our benefits include tuition assistance, flexible hours, paid time off, free employee meals, and more. At McDonald's, the crew is the special sauce. Join us. Apply now at McDonald'sHiresOhio.com. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.